My decision to enter the transfer portal was just a coaching change. I have to do everything in my power to be able to work and get myself to that level to where, I can go ahead and I can represent the Bahamas on the global stage. Tyreek Hill may be better than Noah Lyles in a 40-yard dash. That just comes down to start, though.
Man, what's up, y'all? It's Freddie Stevenson from Trials of Triumph. I got to give a major shout out to every single one of y'all for all the support over the past few days. The Jimbo episode has been going crazy. We have over 10 million views across platforms over the last 3 days, and we've been on every major media platform. So we got to shout y'all out. Make sure to continue to like, share, and subscribe, because we got a lot of dope content coming to you. That being said, we got another great one coming up this week with star track and field athlete Laquan Ellis. He talks about his record-setting year at Florida State and what ultimately led him to enter the transfer portal. He also discusses the process of preparing for the 2028 Olympics, where he hopes to represent his home country, the Bahamas. But first, I would like to take the time out to thank our sponsors, For Athlete, Indie Atlantic Films, and Concord Coffee. Now let's get into this episode. The beginning, are you from the Bahamas? Like, where'd you grow up?
So I was born in Miami, Florida. My mom was still in college, so moved over to Bimini, Bahamas. It's not even a year old, a couple months. Lived with my grandparents for about the first 7-8 years of my life. And then my mom decided to get me back here, and then we moved to Miami. We moved back down to Miami as she finished her schooling and everything like that. So I would say the first 8 years I grew up in the Bahamas, so that's pretty much all I knew. So born in Miami, raised in the Bahamas. That's all I knew. It was a different time then. It wasn't no Amazon next day shipping. So it's a lot of things like growing up that I definitely didn't have accustomed to once I came here. Like the opportunities were endless. And once my mom realized like sports is something that I want to pursue, she made it her goal to be like, hey, okay, we can bring you over and just make it a lot easier. Schooling was a little bit better. The opportunities, like I say, was endless with sports. Just being able to do a lot more than I'll be able to do there, the outreach. And so I was competing in high-level tournaments, track and field, playing basketball at an early age, and everything like that. So she wanted to make sure that I was in a situation where I would be good schooling, good area, competitive environment. So that ultimately led to my move to the U.S. early age.
What's the difference between, of course, it's kind of self-explanatory, but I want to hear from you, growing up on the islands and versus having to come, was it a culture shock for you?
Yeah, it was a culture shock. Growing up on the islands, it's like, especially where I'm from Bimini, Bahamas. So the island is only about 7 to 9 miles long. So everybody knows each other. Everybody's almost like family on the island. So growing up, everybody always knew me, especially from the islands. Everybody always knew me. They always backed me, things like that. My grandfather was a pastor as well. Grandmother, first lady in the church. And a lot of my family was there, and a lot of my family grew up there. So our family was pretty notable, especially on the island. So everybody already knew who I was. So I feel like, especially, with having my grandfather as a pastor and things like that, like I had to make sure that growing up, like, I wasn't doing crazy things, making sure that I'm on my best behavior. Anytime somebody see me, like, I'm not using no crazy language or anything like that. So I would say
would they tell on you if you was?
I mean, I feel like, yeah, they would have. I feel like they would have told on me. I feel like they would have told on me if I would have. So I always made sure, like, that I was just always on my best behavior. I was always doing what I needed to do. I would always play basketball and run around the island bare feet and things like that. So I feel like the island life, I miss it in terms of the size. Like we were, as kids, you were free. Like there wasn't any like, okay, like be home at a certain time. Like, I mean, it would be dark out and we would go home eventually, but it wasn't like you have to be home, especially on my island. I can say for my island, but we didn't have to go home at a certain time. Like, we were outside all day. And then you always had something to do. One day we would swim, one day we would play ball, one day we would run around all day. We would go fishing. So it was always something to do. Make little boats with the little woods on and drag them in the sand. So we always had things to do. So I feel like growing up, that always showed me a different side. So once I moved to the U.S. and the shift was just like, now I can't really be out too much. When I started to ride my bike around the neighborhood, especially in Carroll City, in Miami, it was only like 1 block out ride up and down all day. So it wasn't like I didn't have the freedom to just move around and be free. And then schooling was different. I had an accent. I still do have it, but it really only comes out when I'm with family. But I had an accent as well too. So it's like certain words I really couldn't pronounce. So it was very hard. Like saying numbers, I would be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And coming here, I had to learn 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, more proper. So I feel like definitely the shift was definitely new and getting accustomed to. But once I got accustomed to it, like I feel like it was just wonderful. And just the transition wasn't as bad because I feel like I did it at a younger age.
Did you know VJ that just went in the draft?
Yeah, so VJ actually grew up in VJ got christened in our church, but I grew up playing basketball with VJ pretty much every summer. Like I would go home once I moved back here. I would go home every summer, every Easter, every Christmas, and I pretty much like that. Those are my boys, like VJ, his cousin, then my cousins as well too. My cousin Kai Jones as well. He's from Nassau, Bahamas. He plays for the Dallas Mavericks right now. He went ahead and got drafted to Charlotte. So like I was always around guys who were athletic. Like I feel like on the islands we have a lot of guys that are athletic, and I like now what we have going on with a lot of athletes. I feel like LA 2028 is gonna be a very good showing for the Bahamas, especially in terms of just like athletes and the type of athletes and the caliber of athletes we have. I feel like the only reason why a lot of the athletes haven't made it is just they don't have the same resources like other schools and other areas and places of the world. But yeah, since VJ was this tall, VJ was doing through the legs, and we had like little 8-foot rims outside. He through the legs and 360 in and dunking on each other. Like everybody was always trying to dunk on each other. So the athleticism is what came naturally. Nobody really was trying to shoot. And then, now of course you build a jump shot and things like that now. But yeah, everybody was just dunking.
Did you know Maven Saunders?
So Maven, yeah, because Maven
played with me at Florida State.
At Florida State, exactly. So Maven's dad was also on the island. Maven's dad has a shop and things like that. So Maven, I talked to Maven before I went to Florida State. I spoke to Maven before. So this is like island games after Carifta. We had the same room and we shared a room. And he pretty much told me about Tallahassee and things like that. Kind of like gave me a warm welcome. Told me the different things about Tallahassee, what it offers, what it brings. But yeah, Maven's great, man. Maven was a great basketball player. A lot of people don't know.
Out this world, man.
Yeah, Maven was a great basketball player. Maven was a very good basketball player. But of course he played football as well too. But yeah, Maven, he was a very, very good athlete. That's the thing I'm saying. Like a lot of athletes in the Bahamas, like we kind of got the raw talent, and it's not a lot of clinics and a lot of things like that. So it's like I feel like we didn't really get sick a lot, or if we did, we always had remedy and treatments as far as like our family always knew what to do. And like we eat a lot of home cooked food, eat a lot of cooked food, like so it's not the McDonald's, the Burger King and things like that. And I feel like that helps a lot as well growing up.
What you thought when you came to America? You see everybody eating fast food, cheeseburgers.
Well, I hopped on that bandwagon too, because it's like, hey, you can go and get some fries. Like I can get some fries, and they're nice and hot, and they got the little salt on it. So I always felt like, man, I hopped on the bandwagon too. But it's definitely something like at a young age, I didn't really know about it as well too. It's like I didn't really think about it as much. Like I would think about it now. I didn't think about it as much. So like a lot of people are like, hey, they grew up in maybe troubled environments and things like that. I always felt like growing up, like I always felt like the Bahamas, like I always felt like it was just an amazing place for me. Like growing up, like I didn't have to worry about like my safety. Like I always felt like I was safe, especially home. Like I always felt I was safe. I always, I was just free. I would roam around the island all day, but I know where home is at. And of course, me and my friends, we would do this. There's certain things that we wouldn't do. Okay, we wouldn't go too deep in the water, or we wouldn't go in the channels. You don't want to get pulled out. So it's things like that you grew up knowing. But yeah, it was just
Is it still the same now, or have things changed over there?
I feel like, of course, it's through adaptation. Like, I feel like, of course, everything kind of changes. So I won't enjoy my time, I feel like, going back home as much as I did before. It's like it's one thing being a kid and having that youth. You have the energy out, all the energy in the world. You kind of have no worries, and then as you get older, you kind of have worries. And so I probably wouldn't enjoy it as much. But there's a lot more different things that, like, now going back home I would do. Like, so I would go home, and if I go home, I would go jet skiing, or like, I would try to live not like a tourist, but I would, go jet skiing and be able to, be in the hotels or things like that and just meet with other people. But I would still be a part of, just local life, because that's kind of what that's what I was growing into. And, my people, like I said, my people love me. Bahamians, they go behind you 100%. It doesn't matter where you are. They're with you 100. So you go to the pros, they're with you at the pros, they're backing you up. And that's what I appreciate about the Bahamian people, man. Like, it doesn't matter if you're not from their island. They embrace you with open arms. And that's how I felt, going to Nassau for Crifta. They embraced me with open arms, even though they didn't know who I was. So I feel like, just the power of the Bahamian people just gives you that strength to just want to do just bigger things and just be able to show other kids they're like, there's a way. Like, there's a VJ Etchcombe, there's a Kai Jones, there's a Buddy Hill, DeAndre Ayton. There's all these other guys before us as well who came, like, and then, in the track and field space there, you got a Keyshawn Strong, you have a Wanye McCoy, Laquan Ellis. You have a lot of people who are going to be these big people, and you want everybody and the kids especially to be like, hey, like, it could be, I could be one of those people as well too. So we always do it for, I feel like my mission has always been for the kids. Like, I've always been like, hey, I want to be able to show, like, the kids, like, hey, you guys can do this. This is what, I've been through. This is, and just using your connections as well as a vessel to keep moving you forward. So
I see that you play 4 sports growing up.
Yeah.
What was that like, and how were you ultimately able to decide that track was the route that you were going to take?
So I always loved, I played basketball. Basketball was my first love. The sport that I wanted to go all the way with, I wanted to go all the way with. So basketball was my first love. I ran track as well too. I love track and field. And then as I got older, I got into, like, baseball, and then I got into football as well. So those are the different sports. When I was younger, football, I liked football. I just wasn't really, that's not something that I grew up. So the contact aspect was something, like, firstly, when I got into the sport, it woke me up, and I'm like, maybe this is for me, maybe it's not. As I got older, like, I went and I played football my senior year of high school, and of course I loved it then. But when I was younger, the contact thing was something that just wasn't for me, so I was ruled out of that. Baseball, I was real fast. I stole bases. I wasn't really a power hitter, but I can field really well. I can run. I can dive out. You know what I mean? I can do everything pretty much on the baseball field. I wasn't a home run hitter or something like that. So, like, my sister, for example, she's someone who is very gifted when it comes to softball. Like, she pitches very well, pitches 65 miles per hour, 5'10", only a sophomore in high school. You know what I mean? So she has all the gifts that I didn't really have, but I had the speed. Track and field, I went back to track and field was just always that sport. Like, I even took time off because I wanted to focus more on basketball. But around my 10th grade year at George Jenkins, I decided that, hey, I'm about to just focus and just put all my eggs in one basket. I'm like, hey, I'm a decent athlete right now when it comes in terms of track and field. Like, I'm seeing my name finally go up the rankings, and, I'm able to see these coaches and things like that, and I'm hitting the recruit standards and things. So I'm like, hey, you know what? Let me start to take this super serious. So then I decided to say, hey, okay, I'm just gonna do track and field. And from then, started picking up in the weight room. Didn't do anything except track, so just ran, bounds, jumps, things like that. And going into my junior year, broke the school record. So I feel like everything always came back to track and field. Like track and field was always as much I didn't like it growing up as much as I wanted to, but it was always something that was just like I had to do because I was just too gifted and too good at it at a young age. Like it was just something I always kept up with. I always had to just, and the track and field, it helps you with every other sport too. So yeah. I always use track and field for conditioning. Like I was a sprinter growing up and I jumped a little bit, but as I got older, started doing like decathlon, different things like that. So sprinting, a mixture of jumping, throwing, high jump, long jump. And then of course it led me to the jumps and then falling in love with jumps as well too. It just took off my junior year. Yeah.
A lot of us dream about owning our own businesses, but don't know where to start. Consider this. Did you realize that 1 in every 4 businesses that we frequent are actually locally owned franchises? See, franchising is more than just McDonald's and Chick-fil-A. It's home services, fitness, wellness, personal care, pet care, senior care, medical, real estate, blue collar, white collar, and everything in between. Today's sponsor has even helped people start small things like vending machines and ATMs. And what I love is that these are proven systems with a playbook for success in place. So just like in sports, if you're coachable and can follow the playbook, you'll be successful. Make sure to check out my guy, Steven, at Franathlete on Instagram, or visit their website, franathlete.com, to learn more. No cost or obligation, just information. What was it like for you, the recruiting process in high school?
So the recruiting process in high school was I would say my recruiting process was, I would say it was good. My sophomore year, we tried this thing called NCSA, of course, for track athletes in high school. So a lot of athletes may be watching this. NCSA it's like a recruiting software, I guess you can use it has your grades, it has everything on there already, and coaches can just kind of look and see and then reach out to you. We used NCSA my sophomore year just to kind of get my feet in the door. I seen schools like, Duke, the Harvards and things like that. Like those schools would start to reach out. And then my junior year, like I said, when I decided that I'm going to go all in on track and field, my junior year, the shift happened. I jumped 23.8 first week of the season. So this is like February, March, jumped 23.8, broke our school record. And I was number 2 in the country at the time. So at that time, my mom decided to make a Twitter account. A lot of you got X, Twitter, whatever you guys call it, athletes around. I want you guys to know that Twitter is not even just track and field athletes, just athletes in high school in general. Twitter is going to be the biggest thing that you would need in your recruiting. You don't need anything else except Twitter. Twitter, Instagram, of course, betting on yourself, sending emails to coaches, reaching out to coaches. But Twitter was such an important recruiting tool for me because this day and age, we have technology. Like, it may have been hard to contact and reach out to coaches, but if a coach is interested in you, they're going to make it known, and they're going to be able to show you that in different kind of ways. So the way I used Twitter was, once my mom created the account, we would make my profile picture, of course, something track related, put your GPA, your address, not your address, your GPA, your phone number, contact information to be able to reach you. And then every week, like, you post, okay, I competed at this meet, this was my jumps, this was that. And then we just mass followed a whole lot of coaches. So we mass followed a whole lot of coaches. Of course, some coaches follow back, some don't. And then that made the list a lot easier for me. So once I kind of got my foot in the door with that, I just continued to just do everything I needed to do on the track because I understood that the template was already set. So I did everything that I needed to do on the track. Of course, kept my grades up in high school. And, school started to reach out. My senior year, after the Carifta games, once I picked up the triple jump, that's where I had my big shift. So I was kind of in contact with Florida State, talking to Coach Sands, Lee Van Sands. He's a Bahamian triple jumper, the greatest triple jumper the Bahamas has ever had, point blank, period. So we were in contact, and this is somebody who I look up to. This is somebody who I seen living pretty much the life that I would want to. I would want to be an Olympic qualifier. I want to be a world qualifier. And he's been doing it since he was in a junior stage. So I knew this was the person that is going to help me going forward with my career. This is somebody who I instill trust in, and I'm anything he needs me to do, I'm gonna do it. So I kind of looked at Coach as, you know, that figure that I'm gonna need. So my senior year, we were already in contact with each other, and by the time I got to my senior year, of course I had I was talking to Texas Tech. I was talking to Miami, USF. We were talking to Penn State, a lot of different schools, but it all kind of just led back to Florida State. It led back to Lee Van Sands, just the great guy he is and the amazing person he is, the amazing coach he was. I pretty much was already set hey, Florida State, no matter what any school does, that's the place that I need to go if I want to go to the next level. So yeah, Coach, I followed Coach to Florida State, and my first year, I went ahead and almost PB'd by a meter, so I think that was definitely one big thing just as far as recruitment. It was just getting established with a coach, getting comfortable with a coach, and just realizing hey, once you understand where you want to go, what do they fit your needs, and you just dive in all in with that. So that's how I felt with that.
Okay, so ultimately, you talked about it a bit, how you got to the decision of Florida State. Kind of talk about your time, being in Tallahassee at Florida State, being able to have the early success that you were able to go on and have.
So going into Florida State my freshman year, I would say I had expectations of maybe, I was hey, because in high school, I was so close to jumping 50 feet. I felt like 50 feet was just not the pinnacle, but at the time, that's what I seen as 15.25 meters. I'm hey, 50 feet is that's really good. That's what I want. That's what I want to aim for. So going into my freshman year, I pretty much was in grind mode. I was in grind mode. I needed to make sure that not only I was able, because I was in dorms as well. So scholarships, the way it worked, I was in the dorms. You're not being in the dorms, you're not going to get a lot of money back. That's just how it works. You're not going to get a lot of money back. A lot of the money that you got in scholarship is probably going to go towards paying for dorms. So I had to make sure that, if I wanted that $1,000 at the end for postseason money, I had to make sure I do what I got to do on the track and jump. So going into the season, pretty much 1492, I believe, is my PB. I wanted to jump 15 meters, or 1507 was my PB going into freshman year. My early success came from just the off season. Once they got me on the workout plan, the weights, I started to eat. I went from about 140 in high school to about I went about to 160. Is my first within my first month and a half. So within my first month and a half, I'd already put on a lot of muscle, a lot of weight. So now I'm able to get off my phases a lot better. I'm able to run faster. I'm jumping more explosively. I took that into consideration. Stretching was a big thing for me. And then also my faith is very high. So I found a lot of the days and the nights where I would be alone in my dorm room. Those would be the times where I would just meditate, pray, try to just talk to God a lot, and I'm happy that I found that my very first year, because, just moving forward, I'm able to be more straight, So going into the year, it was just a year of no expectations. I just want to go out there and jump. So that just led me to just jumping far. Of course, I had the little knickknacks going outdoor, but indoor season, I end up winning my first ever collegiate triple jump meet. So I won my first ever meet. So I can always say my debut competition I won. So that's something. I jumped 15 meters as well, or 1492. Then the next meet I jumped about 15 meters. You continue to move forward. I continued to see bigger jumps. And then I had my indoor lifetime PB at the ACC Indoor Championships in Boston. So that was something as well too in the stacked field where, you know, I was somebody who wasn't looked at to score. Against all odds, I went ahead and scored. Outdoor as well, we went into it. First meet, I got hurt. I was out for about a month. Just the whole, because I feel like indoor is more soft. The surface is softer. And then outdoor is whatever you put in that ground, that's what the ground's going to give you. So going into outdoor, I kind of had to get back used to outdoor again. Get used to the track, get used to the feeling. I got hurt, like I said. Was out for about a month, made sure I rehab, did everything that I needed to do, prayed, stretched. And I mean, the way I got hurt, it was a pretty big foul. Like, it was a big foul. So I knew something was there. And coach continued to tell me, hey, just trust the process, trust the process, trust the process. I came back, my first ever meet, new PB, 15.25 meters. So it's like 50 feet. So I finally got 50 feet. I'm like, man, okay, that's how it feels. And then we get about a week off, and then we go to LSU. I go ahead and I jump 15.44. So now that's about 20 centimeters more than my last PB. And then we go ahead and go to the ACC Outdoor Championships. This is my last ever jump. At this point, I'm seated about maybe like 7th. Like I'm right out of contention, medal contention. My biggest thing, I was like, hey, I'm already here. You know, this is my last jump. I was like, this is my very last jump. I want to be able to use this jump. I want this jump to mean something. So before I got on the track, you know, I prayed. I was like, Lord, I trust you more than, you know, at this moment, I trust you more than anything. You know, like, you've led me to this moment here. I have nothing to lose. I ran down the track, hopped, I stepped, and I got into the sand, and I was trying to remember where the last person was that jumped. And as I got out the sand, like in the video, I could see myself. I looked at myself, and it was kind of like I don't know if it was enough. But at that moment, I was content. I was like, you know, I went out here and I competed and I did everything I did. In that moment, I felt like it wasn't enough. And I was hurting. My ankle was hurting. My body was hurting. I'm like, man, it's hurting, man. It's hurting. And then I seen on the screen 15.71. I'm like, whoa. At that moment, everything left my body. The pain, the hurt, the crying, the tear, like just everything just left. I ran down the track. I took my shirt off. I'm on TV on the ACC network with my shirt off. I'm in the middle. I'm ready to backflip. I just jump in the middle of the field. I go on my knees and I start praying. I'm like, thank you, Lord. Like this, you know, like that's just like, cause it wasn't anything to be like, hey, like, you know, like I was a freshman who, coming out of high school, I was one of the better jumpers in the country, but this is my first ever year doing triple jump. So it's just that adjustment to get into the triple jump and now learn how to technically jump and not just use my jumping ability to the best of my strengths. I was actually able to learn. So once I learned and everything started to come into place, 15.71 is way completely different from 15.2. So 15.7, that's like, hey, we can go to nationals as a freshman. So I was going into the regional meet, you know, a little bit beat, but I was going into the regional meet like, you know, like, hey, let's you know, if we go out there and we can produce either the same jump or just jump better, we can go to that national meet. And regardless of what happens at the national meet, at least we made it there as a freshman. So I kind of, the success was just taking it a meet at a time. Of course, my faith was very strong and is still, and just making sure that stretching, things like the little things that a lot of people don't talk about, you know, just taking care of your body, making sure that you rehab, use the resources, you know. So getting flushes, getting stretches, getting massages, things like that. I just made sure that I take advantage of. And I was living inside a dope, like I was living in the stadium, man. Just in the training room, I was living in there, making sure that I got, because I mean, your body treats you how you treat it. Yeah. So if you don't treat your body well, it's not gonna have anything for you. So that's my early success in college, man. I'm thankful for it.
Not a doubt. I heard a story about, you know, when you were at the Carifta games, how your grandmother's house caught on fire.
So yes. So this was maybe about 2 weeks, a week and a half after Carifta trials. So going into Carifta Trials, I think my PB before Carifta Trials was like 14.2. Like I had just started the triple jump. I wasn't really good at it. And then they moved me, of course, to the 42 board. Jumped 15 meters for the first time. Qualified to go on the national team to represent us at the Carifta Games. So that was something that was very big in my life, very monumental. Definitely changed the course of my career. And then, of course, going to trials, I believe, the night before. So this is the night before competition. My mother, my uncle, my sisters, everybody's in town at our house. I mean, at the competition to watch me. My uncles, everything that are in Nassau, they're there. So they're at the competition. I believe it's like 6 or 7 a.m. that this happened, like super early in the morning. So going into the competition, they knew what had happened, but my mom didn't want to tell me that because she wanted to make sure that, my mind is clear and that I go ahead and jump. So I went out there, clear head, clear mind. I went against the at the time, U20 world champion, U20 world record holder. So undoubtedly, of course, I went out there to compete, but everybody knew, like, this guy, he's gonna win, Jaden Hibbert. So of course it was pretty much a race for who's gonna get second, who's gonna jump, who's gonna be second. So I went out there, of course, competing to try to beat him. I end up getting the second place medal, hoisting that medal in front of my people, wearing that flag around my chest, everything like that. I took pride in that. The fireworks came up. Like, that was just an amazing feeling. And then hearing about the news later on in the day about the fire, like, this is the house that, we've grown up in for the last 40, years, 40 or so years. Seeing the pictures and the videos of just like it completely being from like a 2-story nice house being completely flat ground sand, like there's no remains in the house, is just like, it was just wild. And I'm so thankful that my grandmother was in the U.S. at the time, because she was then dealing with her problems, like her lower body problems and things like that. So my granddad, being able to be strong, and he was still in a shape to where he can move and maneuver fast. I'm thankful that although the house was gone, there was no lives lost. Because I feel like everything can always be replaceable except life, like, So just being able to have life again was amazing. So of course, my grandmother, she was here, so she was safe and alive and well. And my granddad, everybody was like, "Hey, Pastor, get out the house." They made sure that he was able to get out the house. So they went in the house, grabbed him. He grabbed everything that he can. I think he was able to grab his Bible. And like I think he had some socks. They told me he had a socks, one shoe, his boxers, his t-shirt, a Bible, and everything in his hand. And then a few days later, they were able to like recover back a watch and things like that for him. But and then I believe my medal. So my junior Olympic medal that I devoted to my great grandmother at her funeral, it actually went down in the fire as well. So I mean, it's just a lot of sentimental value, especially. So every time I go home, I gotta go pay homage, especially to where it's at, because that's everything that I've known. So I feel like that was a very big thing, and that happened, especially during my life. But it's just the timing of everything was just insane, because I feel like with that happening, God just placed everything and everything's done for a reason. Everything is done for a reason. So I feel like I just went out there and competed and did very well, and then of course that happens, but then you also got to thank God, like, hey, at least he's still here. My great grandfather, I feel like my great grandfather is my granddad. He's somebody who supports me unconditionally. Grandmother, they support me unconditionally. Mom, like I said, I grew up with them for the first 8 years of my life, so just seeing life in them is what made everything else worth it. So I went back home a couple weeks then later, and then I had a big parade as well. I had a big parade. I was in the back. The island celebrated me, and they gave me like a plaque with my name on it, congratulating me for what I did. So thankful for it. I'm thankful for it, especially for my peoples too. You know, Bimini, Bahamas, we're a very small island, but people, they a lot, like, they have heart. They have heart. They're with you 100%. So especially somebody like VJ now, like I'm super happy with what VJ is doing, especially with the community, to be able to help out, and it's bringing everybody together in terms of just not only just the country, but our little island as well. So
we would like to thank Concord Coffee for sponsoring this episode. Fuel your day with Concord Coffee, Florida's favorite local roaster. Whether you're grabbing a freshly brewed cup on the go or savoring a latte crafted by our skilled baristas, Concord Coffee is all about bringing you quality and community in every sip. Visit us at our Lakeland or Gainesville locations, or shop online to get your favorite beans delivered right to your door. Start your day the Concord way, because great coffee isn't just a drink, it's an experience. Concord Coffee, where craft meets community. Make sure to visit concordcoffee.com to learn more. After having your success at Florida State, what ultimately led you to want to enter the transfer portal?
So my decision to enter the transfer portal was just a coaching change. Coach Sands wasn't the coach at Florida State University anymore, and I felt like I spoke to my grandparents and everything like that. Like I said, our faith is very strong. My granddad says he always told me, hey, just go where you're appreciated, go where you're celebrated. He's like, maybe this is just something that, God led you there for the initial training with the coach, with the guy, to be able to further your career. And now it's time to put yourself first. So, of course, I love Florida State. Never have anything bad to say about Florida State. I loved it. Some of the best times I've had ever in my life at Florida State. So, I appreciate everything that the school has done for me. I will forever be a Noel, of course, but and rep Garnet and Gold. But yeah, I think it was just a decision to move on to what's new. I wanted to go somewhere else where I can be able to create history, create a legacy, and then submit myself in the record books. So that's where, going forward to wherever school I'm at next, that's going to be the biggest thing, is just being able to put myself in a position where I can look back and take my kids somewhere where they can see, their dad's name, their dad's picture, and things like that, and having a history cemented somewhere. So that's pretty much what I looked at going into this.
I know we talked about it a bit off camera. I don't know if you want to talk about it on camera, but do you have a list of teams that you're currently looking at?
So currently right now, I narrowed it down. My schools, my top two right now is pretty much just going to be USF and University of Miami.
What stands out about them?
University of Miami, of course, still ACC school. ACC school. The school offers, of course, a great academic program, great track and field history, great area. It's down in Miami, so it's kind of like going back, going back home. I have family out there as well. I feel like I ultimately just wanted to stay in Florida. I think that was the biggest thing, just staying in Florida. But Miami, the coach appreciates, like, he shows, like, I reached out to the coach, and coach reached out to me as soon as possible, like, hey, I'd love to have you on board. So just going where, like I said, going where I was celebrated. I feel like Miami is a great fit in terms of just where I want to go at. In terms of the history aspect and being able to go there and leave a mark and leave a legacy, I feel like Miami was a good fit. And then USF is equally important as well too, because the coach highly recruited me out of high school. Came to my house on a home visit, made it feel like home always. And then when I was at Florida State, we always kept a good relationship. Anytime I would see him at a meet, hey, coach, what's going on? Things like that. He would always congratulate me. So I feel like anywhere I go, I end up. I feel like the program, one, is going to, like I say, celebrate me, welcome me with open arms, and then two, the coaches I know are going to be for my best interest. I always feel like no matter where you're going to a school, the most important thing is just going to where what fits your needs, especially for track and field. As much as track and field is a team sport, it's very individually based as well. So there's no team aspect or no team points aspect if one individual athlete can't handle what they need to handle. And that's in terms of scoring, in terms of getting first, second, whatever the case may be, to be able to help. Everybody comes together and then forms a team aspect, but it always starts with one person, unless you're on a relay, of course. But I would say, I'm not sure when this will be uploaded, but I may have my decision by then. And my decision will just be just based on where I feel like in future, moving forward for myself, of course, my family, and then just what I feel like in terms of what's going to help me in the long run.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you talked about what it means to you to be able to represent your country. I'm looking at all the accolades. We just talked about you being on the U20 team in the Bahamas. New Balance Outdoor All-American, AAU 7-time All-American, state championship runner-up. All of these different things. We talked about the silver medal you just got at the Caribbean Games. And your PR being the top 6 freshmen in the country.
Yes, sir.
What would it mean to you to represent your country at the Olympics in LA?
It would mean everything, man. Like, I feel like I feel like I just owe it all back to my people. Like they've always celebrated me. They've always been behind me 100% of the way. And going to Carifta and feeling and knowing what it felt like to be celebrated that much and be loved that much, I feel like it would be an honor to be able to represent the country. You know what I mean? Be able to represent the country at LA. It would be an honor to be able to represent the country on the world stage, you know. Just being able to travel around the world and wear, you know, the Bahamian flag on my chest is just, that's just everything to me. I feel like anytime I put it on, it gives me some kind of superpower to jump even farther than I ever jumped before, just because I replay the sounds in my head. I replay the claps. I replay the, you know, the brass. I replay everything, you know, just the history and the heritage of how far the Bahamas has came. It's just, I think about it all. So I feel like it's going to mean everything to me, and it's just going to make the whole thing just worthwhile in the end. So that's the goal. It must happen. It must happen. I have to make it. I have to do everything in my power to be able to work and get myself to that level to where, you know, I can go ahead and I can represent the Bahamas on the global stage. So
you talked about switching from, you know, just a regular jumper to going to triple jump. Was it awkward for you in the beginning?
Yeah, so triple jump is very technical. You know, going into my junior year of high school, I didn't really know what a triple jump was. I didn't know the history behind it. I didn't know the people behind it. Like I said, I got hurt my junior year. I got hurt my junior year of high school and missed out on the state meet because my lower back. This is my first time lifting weights and things like that, so really getting accustomed to the weights and things. So I got hurt. I watched everybody else compete and jump, long jump, triple jump. Like, you know, I kind of watched the same names pop up for both events at that meet. And I was like, you know what? I want to pick up the triple jump my senior year so that I can go out with a bang. My whole goal was to go out there and go and win gold at the state meet for the long jump and triple jump my senior year. So going into my senior year, like I said, I picked up the triple jump. We practiced it. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know what I was doing initially. Is the whole cycling aspect. Like I had the little short little steps going into my jumps. That just wasn't, you know, it just wasn't optimal for far jumping. So as I picked up a coach, Coach Neek, shout out Coach Neek, out of Winter Haven. I went out to Coach Neek and We worked for about 2-3 weeks. She got me jumping at the 40 board, 42-foot board. And like I said, I went from 14-2 to 15-0 in a matter of 2.5-3 weeks. How? It's just the work that you put in, of course, but it's also just the being able to put yourself in a situation where you're not comfortable where you are. Like, I was comfortable being at a 36 board. I was comfortable, coming around and seeing, everybody in the city. It was just me and Jaden Lippett. Jaden Lippett goes to the University of Florida now, but it was just me and Jaden. Like, in the city, that's it. As far as triple jump, he was jumping 14 high. I was jumping 14 mid. So I was always like, okay, cool. This is who I'm competing with. And he was also one of the better jumpers in the country as well. So that was definitely a good person to be around jumping with. But, just once I got to the Carifta stage and I'm seeing, okay, people are jumping 16s. And then, my coaches over there are like, hey, like, I believe you can jump 16 meters. Like, that just opened your mind up and opened you up to a whole new version of you that you see. And that's why I feel like your environment is very important. The people that you have around you and the environment that you have around you. This is exactly like the analogy everyone says, like the whatever fish that you have, that tank, the size of that tank, the fish is only going to adapt to whatever the size of that tank is. Yeah. So if you continue to have yourself in a little tank, bottled up in a little, then you're only going to grow to what that environment allows you to grow to. But if you just hold yourself accountable that, hey, the whole world, let me adapt to the world. Let me look at everyone else. Let me just not look at one or two people, see this person, that person, and say, okay, this is where I can peak. In a year or two, you never know where you can change your life to. So it's always you can always get better. Like, coming into to college as well was another thing. Like, being one of the better jumpers in high school, you're not going to be the best jumper in college. It's going to take a year or two. And then seeing early success my freshman year just continued to push me like, hey, I belong. So I just wanted to use that and continue to get better for myself. But I would say environment was a big thing in terms of just success and opening your eyes to the unlimited possibilities that you have as an athlete.
You talked about the difference between indoor and outdoor earlier. Because you kind of talk about the difference, like, in detail in preparation for an indoor competition and an outdoor competition for the people on the outside looking in that may not understand.
Okay, so for the people on the outside looking in or who may not be in the track world, indoor, the reason why I would say indoor is a little bit more challenging. One, indoor is earlier in the season. So it's earlier in the season. On the NCAA level, indoor doesn't have a regional meet. So you can jump very far early in the season, one or the first meet or second meet, and you can automatically have a ticket punched to the national meet. It's also hard in terms of me being an athlete in Florida. We never really jumped indoors. Florida State doesn't have an indoor track. So indoor tracks are for the schools that either have a lot of money, a lot of budget, high budget, or schools that have the winter season where it snows and they have to practice at an indoor track. So we didn't really have the luxury. So the whole getting used to the indoor surface was, okay, you may bounce back. It may give you a little bit of something where you can bounce back off of it a little bit. So initially, me being a power jumper, it would always feel like it was a trampoline, but in a way to where I wouldn't be able to get up and be up, like, balanced and be able to control it. So I feel like the first few meets were just kind of like mocks, like just trying to get a feeling for it. And then once I got accustomed to it, everything kind of changed. But it's like, just imagine practicing on an outdoor meet and an outdoor track all year, and then you go into an indoor track and it kind of feels like you're bouncing. It's not really giving you the same that you were doing outdoor. So that's why I feel like unless you have the experience for both, it's always going to be some kind of like learning phase or something earlier on. So I feel like that was definitely the biggest thing for me, especially now knowing that, okay, we have an indoor, we have an outdoor. Yeah, indoor is just a lot harder just because, like I say, it's an automatic qualifier for the national meet. So you can be someone who jumps really well outdoor, and you can have, the conference mark, whatever the case may be, and you can be the best jumper in the nation. But if you go to the regional meet on that day and you don't do well, you don't go to the national meet. So, and that's later down in the season. So everyone's primed. A lot of coaches train for different peaks. So a lot of coaches train and you may be peaked indoor, or you may peak the very first meet, or you may peak the very last meet. My coach was someone who he wanted us to peak at championship meets. So a lot of we would slightly go back with our marks every meet or so. We would slightly just go back. Okay, we'll move our steps back and things like that. We weren't really going primarily off the rip 100% on the gas pedal. So I definitely feel like that as well helped too. Like just taking it and getting used to it with my body, just moving forward.
Heck yeah. You see now a lot of football players calling out track athletes. What are your thoughts on the guys like Tyreek Hill, some of the other guys in the NFL that are fast and they think that they can beat, sprinters like Noah Lyles and race?
So where I'm at with that is, of course, I do believe that there are guys in the NFL who can beat some track and field athletes. Arian Smith from Leyland, perfect example. Mm-hmm. Arian Smith in high school was somebody who competed with Team USA on the 4x1 relay. I believe they have the 4x1 record actually as well, USA record or world record for the relay team. Tyreek Hill, he's shown in a couple meets like, hey, Tyreek Hill's fast. Tyreek Hill runs like a 10-0, 10-1, something like, which is fast in the track world as well. Like, it's not slow. Mm. But guys like Noah Lyles and, the Keyshawn Thompsons, 9-7 and 10-0 is a completely different realm. So when it comes to top speed, I feel like Noah Lyles will get him in longer events. So like 100 meter, if you put 100 meters up, I think that's gonna fairly favor a track athlete because our conditioning and the way that we practice and train is primarily for the longer lactic 100 meters. 100 meters may feel like forever for a football player just because you're used to 40-yard dashes, or in the games, if you're not someone with breakout speed, you're not going to be somebody who is going to have 60-yard receptions or 60-yard rushes all the time. Like, you may have 20 and 30, and those may be a lot, but your body is not used to running for 100 full meters. Yeah. So once you get to about 40 and 50 meters, you're like, okay, at that point, you're just trying to keep everything going. That's just where a lot of the track athletes are now getting up and tall and moving in through the race. So I feel like I feel like a lot of football guys are fast, but you will have to test that through like 40-yard dashes. Like Tyreek Hill may be better than Noah Lyles in a 40-yard dash. That just comes down to start though. Mm-hmm. Like if Noah has a good start on the day, it may not look as good. But I feel like, of course, speed is speed. Speed is speed at the end of the day. I feel like if you have the speed, that's the easiest thing to have. If you have the speed, it's easier to try to race somebody who's faster than being somebody who don't have it and then want to say, okay, I'm going to call out. So, it's good for the track and field community though, regardless. I feel like it brings more light to the track and field community. So at a certain extent, people in the track world are mad at Tyreek Hill, but you got to look back and be like, okay, he's one of the biggest football players out right now. And just him shedding light in track and just being able to try to help track and field in a way, putting more light on it. Sometimes you got to take it as a win, Yeah. If they decide to line it up and they decide to race, so be it. He loses, you can't be mad at him. He plays football at the end of the day. But I feel like, the publicity is good publicity at the end of the day for track and field. So I love what they got going on. I do want to see the race though.
Yeah, for sure.
Me personally, I got Noah Lyles. I can't. I mean, Olympic champ, you just can't go against it unless I'm shown like, hey, he's gonna lose. But yeah, I gotta go with the Olympic champ Noah.
Speaking of speed, Speed is one of the top streamers in the world.
Speed, yeah.
So I always see the videos of him calling people out and racing them. He can move.
Speed can move, yeah.
Do you think if he trained track and field, he could put up a decent time?
So at this current moment, I believe Speed can probably run somewhere between like 10.8 to about 10.7, 10.6 maybe.
Okay.
I feel like Speed can run something decently fast. I feel like, of course, if he's training with some of the best trainers in the world, he can get to where he is very elite level speed. But I don't think he would be on the cusp of like 9 seconds. 9 seconds, 10, 10.3, 10.2. I don't know, just because it's just the distance. It's just the fractional seconds that you have. It's just, I don't think it'll be enough. Mm-hmm. But I definitely do think Speed is definitely somebody who can move. Like I say exactly as well, too. One of the biggest streamers in the world, shedding light on the track community. It's great publicity for track. You know what I mean? He actually trains at, he goes to the University of Miami sometimes. So if I'm there, then, hopefully I'll ask Speed for a race or something. I ask him to jump. Get him in jumps, man. Help jumps out. But get him to do some jumps. Speed is very athletic, very gifted athlete, things like that in the streamer world. So just having those guys back into track and field too is like, it's good publicity.
What do you think about the current state of track? Because now you guys never had a union, and then I see it like some guys, if they don't get sponsorships, they're working, they're working jobs just to make ends meet. Do you ever think there'll come a point with track that you guys will get a union put together with track and field?
I will hope so. In the near future, I feel like if there's any time to do it, is now. Nowadays we have the media outlet. We have pretty much everything formulated to be able to do that. The only thing is just the money. It's the revenue. How many people? A lot of people only watch these meets when you go to the Olympics. Unless you're a diehard track athlete or track fan, a lot of us will watch these. But as well, track and field is very international. Like, you go to Germany, you go to Russia, you go to Tokyo, you go to London. A lot of people are more invested in track and field in that state of the world. So when it's nighttime here, like a lot of my friends that I watch that are pros and things, like when I watch them jump, it's normally like 4 a.m., 3 a.m. here, and it's the morning time for them. So they're competing at a whole different time where now you're not really able to see. So the Olympics is really good because the Olympic caters towards, of course, the country that they're in, but it's also catchable for the U.S. I feel like the U.S. isn't in touch with it just because of like, it's easy to watch. Sometimes you have to watch on Peacock. Sometimes you have to watch on here. It's not really formulated on television as mainstream as a lot of other sports. And like I say, you're not gonna really see the Diamond League. You're not gonna see the other meets that they have, the invites and things like that. It's just track and field just has to get to the space where we're more publicly seen and not just on YouTube. Like it can't be 100-meter champ, world champ, and then the YouTube video that has 10, 15 million views, but we don't have any live coverage. Yeah. Without live coverage, there's no, you're not able to generate the viewership that a lot of people are able to. And that attests to the streaming world. The streaming world is very big right now because a lot of people is understanding that you can stream live. Streaming live and being able to move on the go and interact with the chat and interact with a lot of people at one given moment. Not only is it entertaining, but you're also able to react, give them reactions. Even if you're not mad, you fake them mad and this and that and get clips. Like, those things are what's going to generate streaming. Streaming 5 years ago, might have been differently, or 10 years ago, it may have been completely different. People do it for the fun, but you get NBA contracts streaming nowadays. So it's just, you just have to use the media how it needs to be used, especially today. And Grand Slam track is something that is moving positively, trying to do something for it. But, I, as a field event athlete, I don't like the aspect of not having field events included. You know, the throws, the jumps. I feel like that's track and field. It's not just track. So I just feel like there's also a disconnect in the track world. Like, of course, you have the track athletes and you have the field athletes. Some people just watch track, and then once the 100 to 200 is done, they're gone. And then you got the people dedicated to field athletes. They watch that. They'll watch the 1 and 2 as well because the 1 and 2 is interesting, and then that's it. But once we get to the point where it's a common ground and everyone loves it and it's more on TV, it's notably out there a lot more, I feel like track and field will then become I feel like it can be one of the biggest. Like we have probably the biggest market other than, like, you know, of course, soccer. Anything that's international, that's not just US based, anything that's international can be huge. Yeah. Like football is very huge, but football with the size of the US and where it has its fans and things like that, they utilize what they have very well. Like they have a league, they have everything structured very well. They've been following the plan. They know exactly what they're doing, and they're able to generate the revenue and everything. And you see it in the stadiums that are built. Track and field, we have some of the nicest stadiums around. You go to China and you see a stadium in every other city. Like you see a stadium minutes apart from each other. But in the US, it's just not. We have to be able to do it to where everybody's united and everyone's able to, you know, capitalize off of it, and not just through Olympics, you know. Because a lot of people think, you know, track and field is just the Olympics. They're like, hey, are you going to go to the Olympics? Yeah, I mean, I want to go to the Olympics in 2028, but what, you think I'm just at home watching TV? 4 years for that? You think I'm watching TV until 2028? No, like you got diamond leagues and the world championships and things, but, you know, track and field just has to do a better job showcasing that, especially to the general public. You know, like I say, with the track market that we have, you got it's very big overseas, like very big overseas. That's why I say I loved it when I went back for Carifta. It's very big in Jamaica, very big in China, very big in Japan, things like that. Baseball is very big in those places as well, but it's also big in the U.S. Once we can get it the same way everywhere here, track and field will have the market to be able to be very big. It's just, it has to be broadcasted a lot better. Yeah. And that's it. It just has to be.
Hopefully it gets to that point, man. But I definitely appreciate you, you know, taking time out of your grind and sitting down with us, man. Yes, powerful story, and I'm looking forward to sharing your story with the people, man, for sure.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me, man.
Yes, sir.
So, Freddie, how you doing?
I'm good.
Jimbo episode came out last week. We're recording this the Monday after that. Saw some really fun success. So you can see a lot of coverage from organizations that me and you both respect, between, you know, Sports Illustrated, ESPN, CBS Sports, all of that, Bleacher Report. How you feeling?
Man, I knew it would do well, but I was thinking from a standpoint of like Florida State fans supporting it and us getting like 25K to like 50K views off of it. But then to wake up and you're getting tagged and people are like, oh man, ESPN just mentioned you this morning, and an hour later, Bleacher Report, and every hour I look is another platform. So it's dope, and ultimately, shout out to Coach Fisher, Coach Jimbo, for trusting me to, you know, share his story the right way on the platform, because that's ultimately, you know, what helped us get to this point.
Yeah, I know he was a spectacular guest, and he was, I mean, even behind the cameras, you know, he's a nice dude. You knew he was a nice dude. We say that about every guest. But you know, when you see people of this, I don't know, not necessarily status, but, you know, this heightened, you know, everybody thinks of Jimbo Fisher as college football guy, and everybody has seen him on Saturdays and is thinking about what he's doing next. And so meeting him in person, hearing you guys talk, hearing his whole story was awesome. And I'm glad that everybody else is thinking the same thing, because I genuinely thought it was one of like the best interviews we've done.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, I especially, you know, yeah, no, it was just a great one. That being said, we're coming out of the Laquan Ellis episode. He has a spectacular story, being from the Bahamas, running track and field, transferring from Florida State. But this whole segment is dedicated to the NFC North and South. So I'll do what we usually do. We'll go through each team. I'll kind of tell you who's on the team, who's not on the team, all that stuff, and then we'll give our predictions towards the end of each division. But we're starting with the Bears. They brought in Case Keenum, I believe, to be the backup. We'll see how that goes. We just watched preseason. It was a little bit of a dicey backup situation there. Brought in Devin Duvernay, Olamide Zacchaeus, Durham Smythe. Acquired Jonah Jackson in trade, which was a pretty big one. Joe Thuney, which is, one of my guys, ex-Chiefs player, ex-Patriots player, multiple-time champion. Signed Drew Dahlman to a 3-year deal. Signed Deo Odeyingbo. Is that how you say his name? To a 3-year, $48 million deal. Signed Grady Jarrett. I didn't know about that one. To a 3-year deal. Kyler Gordon agrees to an extension for 3 years. Overall, the biggest acquisition for them is Ben Johnson.
Yeah.
Ben Johnson is one of those dudes who really started shining with the Lions, being the offensive coordinator there for years during their success. We'll see how he can do in a head coaching role. The thing I loved about him was how selective he seemed to be of a head coaching role. He could have probably been a head coach 2 years ago. And then also we saw them have a pretty good draft, taking Colston Loveland at 10, which people thought was a little bit of a reach. And then Luther Burden III in the second round, which I mean, he's one of my favorite wide receivers in the draft.
Sure, yeah, he's a baller.
And then even there's other picks in between this, but even in the 7th, taking Kyle Monange from Rutgers, the running back, he's got some good tape. Last year. But so for me, they also got Sean Wade on a minimum. I didn't know that, but for me, I think this is one of the, like we were talking about the AFC North. The NFC North is one of the hardest divisions in the year this year, just because of all of these stacked teams. I think the Bears could easily do it, but I also think the Bears could be a little disappointing, just because it's hard to. Supposedly, it's really hard to understand Ben Johnson's schemes when you first learn them. Jared Goff had a year where you had to kind of learn it, but I think we're almost in like the. If last year was an Achilles tear for the 2024 Bears, we're in the second year, or the first year after that. So it's like we're in a bounce back year. We might have a good year, but the next year is the year that I'd be really circling. Yeah. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. Getting Ben Johnson, just what he did last year, over the course of the past few years when he's been there. I think he'll be a great guy for the development of Caleb Williams. He said it. That's the reason that he decided to come to Chicago. So that says a lot that he believes in him. Despite all the outside noise, he saw things on tape that he believes that he can bring the best out of this guy and get this team to a championship winning level. So I'm excited to see how they pair up.
Yeah. And I think when you have a coach like that, I mean, both the coordinators leaving the Lions, who we're talking about next, but when both the coordinators leave the Lions and they both had chances to leave multiple times, that's when the kind of, I mean, with Glenn being a defensive coordinator going to a defensive-minded team in the Jets, or at least a defensive, propped-up team, and then you got all of the weapons of the Bears. That excites me, but I'm a little. I put a little cold water on it just to. I think that it'll be more growing pains than anybody thinks.
Yeah.
Going to the Lions, they signed Kyle Allen to be the backup. They re-signed Tim Patrick. They re-signed Dan Skipper. They re-signed a lot of players. Marcus Davenport. They brought in Roy Lopez. They re-signed Levi Unwazurike. I should have looked at these names beforehand. They signed Zach Cunningham. They signed Derek Barnes. They brought in Avonte Maddox, DJ Reed, which is a big one, Rock Sin, one of my favorite under-the-radar guys, and then they signed Kirby Joseph to a 4-year extension. And then they also drafted Tyleik Williams in the first round, defensive tackle out of Ohio State. Tate Ratledge, guard out of Georgia, who I think could see some playing time with all of the recent retirements and stuff from them. Isaac Tesla, the wide receiver out of Arkansas, who by all accounts has been tearing it up in practice, as well as his preseason tape was pretty good. But again, the biggest story around these guys are the coaches. They lose both coordinators, so it's tough to see. Is it the Dan Campbell show, or is it is it the coordinators?
Yeah, who know? I think it's Dan Campbell, man. Regardless of the coordinators that come in, just last week we talked about Remember the Titans. The senior Remember the Titans when we said attitude reflects leadership. Look at the QB, the quarterback situation with Jared Goff. You saw Jared Goff with the Rams that at times looked like he wasn't a confident guy. Nobody believed in him, and a lot of people felt like he was the one that was holding that team back. Well, Jared Goff isn't the issue anymore. He coming out, he balling, he's stepping for the Lions. He's been dominant. He's been one of those guys every single year you see him at some point. He's in that MVP conversation. So it starts with Dan Campbell. Dan Campbell has said from day one that Jared Goff is his guy. He believes in him, and you see that confidence showing on the field, and it's going through the locker room. This team plays like Dan Campbell. They taking on his identity, the guy that's relentless and goes for it on fourth down, and his team rewards him every single time he does it. And they've been in the thick of this thing for the last 2 years. They're probably in the Super Bowl a couple years ago. If they got two plays where guys dropped the ball on fourth down, they dropped the ball. It's right in their hands. They're probably in the Super Bowl that year. And then last year, they just got killed by injuries.
Yeah. I think the big thing that'll be interesting besides the running, or not the running backs, the coaches is the running backs. I think, will we see Jahmyr Gibbs take the next step? Or will we see that be a split carry thing again? I mean, I think odds are high that it's probably a split carry thing again. But, Montgomery didn't have a great career until he came to the Lions. So it's like, is it going to be a situation where he kind of goes back to that medium? Or is it a situation where he continues to excel and be great in this system where they split carries? I mean, you saw so many plays, especially in the playoffs last year, where Jahmyr Gibbs just lit up the field. So it's like there's definitely an argument to be made that this is almost the tail end of the Mark Ingram, Alvin Kamara situation, where Alvin Kamara was getting these split carries, but he needed more touches, and they gave him more touches than he's like a 15,000-yard, all-purpose yard player. I think Jahmyr Gibbs could easily be an 1,000-yard player on the ground, as well as 500 to 750 on the catching. So it'd be interesting just to see what direction they go. They're built to win, but again, this division's hard. They have to play the Bears, Vikings, Packers twice each, 6 games. All 6 games are going to be slobber knockers. They're going to be hard. So we'll see. I think injury luck is going to be a huge thing for this division. The next one is the Green Bay Packers. They had a weird offseason. I didn't realize how weird it was. But they brought in Mecole Hardman, which I think is a great pickup. Yeah. He's one of those guys. He's always going to have a role, even if it's getting cut and going to the Chiefs in the middle of the season. But they signed Zach Tom to a 4-year extension, offensive tackle. They brought in Aaron Banks, signed a 4-year deal with them. They re-signed Isaiah McDuffie, who I really liked. They brought in Isaiah Simmons, who by all accounts has been, in a terror. He's kind of going back to what he was in college in these practices. They signed Nate Hobbs to a 4-year deal, who I really liked, and then they brought back their kicker, Brennan McManus. And then I think every Packers fan will say that the biggest story from the offseason is that they drafted Matthew Golden, who was a dog in college football. He really, really showed out in the playoffs. But I mean, the team that has been, it seems like so gun shy to draft a wide receiver. Now they draft a wide receiver late in the first round, and it seems like he might be one of the steals of the draft just because of everyone taking in front of him. I mean, Ted McMillan's actually looked really good too, but what are your thoughts?
I'm excited about the Packers. it seemed the past few years, similar situation with them, man. They've been one of those teams that you thought would be in the thick of things, and then things just kind of fell off at some point in the year. They either start late or they didn't finish the way that you wanted them to. And I think the Packers have a strong chance to push the Lions this year. I thought that last year was going to be the year that they did it, but I think this year is the year that they really push the Lions, for the lead in this division.
Yeah. Also, Matt LaFleur returning. It's a very fun team. They didn't lose a lot of pieces. They didn't gain a lot of pieces. It seems like they kind of spun the tires. The biggest piece they probably lost was Eric Stokes. A.J. Dillon is no longer there, but I mean, he was kind of on the tail end. They still have Josh Jacobs, who had a great season last year. It's overall, I'm excited to see what the Packers can do. Again, when we're picking the winner of this division, I still don't even know who I'm going to say. I have a feeling who I'm going to say, and it might be the next team that we talk about, but still not 100%. But that brings us to the Vikings. Obviously, they didn't bring back Sam Darnold. They're going with J.J. McCarthy this year. They re-signed Aaron Jones to a 2-year deal. They traded for Jordan Mason, who I think was a sneaky good trade, especially for all of the production that he had. They brought in Rondale Moore, which he just tore his ACL in preseason, so unfortunately he will not be playing for them this season. They signed Josh Oliver, the tight end, to a 3-year deal for $23 million. So we'll see if that works out. I don't remember his production being worth that, but I'm glad that he got his money. They signed Will Fries to a 5-year, $88 million deal. They signed Ryan Kelly to a 2-year, $18 million deal, which I think was really good. They brought in Jonathan Allen for a 3-year, $51 million deal. They signed Javon Hargraves to a 2-year, $30 million deal. They signed Andrew Van Ginkel to a 1-year, $23 million deal. They brought Eric Wilson in. They re-signed Byron Murphy. They signed Jeff Okudah, Isaiah Rodgers, and Tavir Thomas. They extended Theo Jackson. They brought Harrison Smith back for seemingly his last season. And then, in the in the draft, they drafted Donovan Jackson, the Ohio State guard, and then Ty Felton, the wide receiver out of Maryland, who I thought was actually a pretty big snag for them in the third. Overall, I think that this is going to be the tried and true test on if Kevin O'Connell is like that. Yeah. We've seen him do it with just time and time again with random quarterbacks, whether it be like the Nick Mullins game or the Josh Dobbs game, last year with Sam Darnold, Kirk Cousins for a little bit towards the end there, when he went to the Falcons, it looked a little bit rough. He was coming off an Achilles, but still, I think this is a really well put together team, and it's just one of those, again, injury luck, and is J.J. McCarthy that guy? Yeah.
Now on the defensive side of things, they handle business. Mm-hmm. That's a smothering defense. They're gonna give a lot of teams problems, and that defense is gonna give them score. They're gonna score points, and they're gonna keep the offense in a lot of games. It just ultimately comes down to what the offense does. You saw last year they started off on a hot streak, and then it seemed like at the end of the year everybody figured them out and they couldn't do much. Mm-hmm. But J.J. McCarthy is their guy. They went up and they got him in the first round of the draft last year. That's ultimately why Sam Darnold isn't there anymore. Can he take this team to the next level? Can Kevin O'Connell get him to the next level to where he's prepared to do that? That's ultimately what it comes down to this team. Because their defense is going to handle business. The offense just has to do their part.
100%. Shout out Brian Flores, former linebackers coach for the Patriots. I'm glad he's getting a second chance because I was kind of pissed off about the way that the Dolphins let him go. But that does it for the NFC North. What rookies are you looking forward to?
Luther Burton, man. That's my guy. In the draft, man, I know you got a lot of first-round guys that guys are excited about, but coming into the draft, I felt like that was a receiver that I knew could come in and make a splash from day one. Mm-hmm. The only thing that probably killed him from going in the first round is guys are looking at his size, but you cut on that tape, man, he's a problem.
No, he's a player.
He's a smaller version of a guy like Deebo Samuel. He can run. He can do a lot of different things. I don't know if you guys play college football 26, but that gadget wide receiver that you move around and they can do a whole bunch of different things, that's Luther Burden. He's going to help Caleb Williams in that offense.
Funny enough, not to go on a side note, but I just played Madden this whole weekend because it came out on early
I heard
release.
Madden's way better this year.
Oh, it's so good. They have a gadget position and they have long snappers. They put the long snapping position inside of franchise. It's awesome. It's a little frustrating when they get hurt, but it's awesome.
Okay, I'm gonna check it out.
It's a very fun game. But yeah, Luther Burden's perfect for that. I mean, he's one of those dudes that just he can play football. It's plain and simple. And he was a big catalyst too for that Mizzou team taking that next step. Him and Brady Cook had a great connection. Brady Cook had some good tape too with the Jets, but vets that could. Oh, I didn't even give my rookie. I would say Matthew Golden. I kind of glazed him a little bit earlier, but Matthew Golden is super fast. He's built in a perfect frame for a wide receiver, and then you really needed that X factor wide receiver one for Jordan Love. I think that's the biggest thing. It really, I love Christian Watson and I love Romeo Doubs. Love Bo Melton, all those guys. But when you have a guy like Matthew Golden, you can seemingly use those people and their skill sets instead of just being like you have to play every kind of position. Vets that could make a difference.
I'm gonna go with Grady Jarrett. Just they lost DeMarcus Walker last year. You got a lot of young guys that they need to develop. You got the guy Javon Dexter that was one of their earlier draft picks a few years ago that they need to develop. Bringing in a guy like Grady Jarrett that can help give these guys some input with all his experience. And not only that, the Bears are known for defense historically. So getting back to that point where you're stopping people and you're holding teams under 20 points a game. Like I remember watching the Lions game last year, and it was just embarrassing how many points the Lions were putting up on them. The Bears got to get back to that point where they're instilling fear in every single team that lines up on the field with them, and that starts with guys like Grady Jarrett that can be dominant in the run game, can be dominant in the pass game, and they're going to bring that energy to the rest of the team.
When the Falcons let Grady Jarrett go, I was genuinely confused, and that doesn't happen a lot. Usually I can be like, all right, salary cap, all right, play's been going down. Grady Jarrett's been a terror, and was on a decent contract. He was making a lot of money, but the Falcons owners don't really care about money too much. They've proven that time and time again. That's a great pick. Mine's also on the Bears, and it's an offensive lineman, Joe Thuney.
Yep,
he's my guy.
Yep.
He was put in a terrible position with the Chiefs where he had to play tackle last year. He's not a tackle. He's never been a tackle. He's a left guard, and he is spectacular. He's one of those dudes. He's like Shaq Mason. He's like Brendan Sheriff. You put him in that guard spot, he'll be there. He won't be a turnstile. He'll hold what he does. He'll elevate everybody around him. And that was the biggest question mark about this Bears team going forward when they let go of Eberflus, when they brought Brian Johnson in. How are you going to address the offensive line?
Yeah.
And the fact that they got him for a 6th round pick is nuts.
That's crazy, and that's like I'm gonna bring in that it's the opposite of my argument. The Bears have been historically known for defense, but offense has always kind of held them back. So getting to the point where you can be that team. The NFL is a scoring league now. Yep. You got to be able to stop people, but you got to be able to put up points too. So when are the Bears going to be able to be one of those teams, especially in the division where people can put up points, where you can kind of compete and do the same?
Yeah. Change the culture. 4th round pick also, by the way. I messed that one up. They got Jonah Jackson for a 2nd round pick, or a 6th round pick. But still, 4th round pick for an all-pro type offensive guard when you're trying to revamp that offense, even offensive coach. When they got him, I was genuinely like, what are the Chiefs doing?
Yeah.
What are they doing? Something that may surprise us about this division.
Oh man. I do think that and this kind of hurts because who's going to win this division, but
yeah.
I do think this is the year that the Packers pull things together and they take that step we've been expecting them to take for the past few years. So for me, I think that's the surprise that's coming for this division this year. I
think mine, and I hate to say it, I've got a buddy Mitch. He's a huge Lions fan. I think mine is that the Lions take a little step back this year.
Yep.
I think that it's really, historically, it's almost impossible to continue your momentum when you lose one coordinator, but when you use both coordinators, that's really tough. I think Aaron Glenn and Ben Johnson were so good that you have to really put some emphasis in the fact that they lost those guys. I think they got good guys to replace them, but it usually takes a little bit of time. There's some growing pains. I could see them having a weird season where they either make the lower wild card or they don't make the playoffs, and then they bounce back the season after they've had a chance to kind of adjust to this new coaching style. Not that they're not going to be a Dan Campbell team, but just the position coaches. But no, that I think that's my thing. I think, like you said, I think the Packers probably will ascend, if not the Vikings, and then the Lions will be the odd man out with the Bears. That kind of gets us to who will win the division.
I got the Packers taking this division this year. I truly believe the Packers take their next step. You've been seeing the flashes. They'll show you flashes like, wow, if they could play like this, man, they'd be a hard team to stop. I think this is a year that they bring it together and they play a lot more consistent football.
100%. It's been kind of written on the wall. They've had some bad injury luck. If you remember last year, early in the season, Jordan Love gets hurt in the Rio game, and he doesn't play for the first few games. They lose, they win, they lose. It's been a really tough going for them. I think for this division, I have the Packers in the second place, and I have the Vikings taking it. Just because we saw how electric that team is when they have Sam Darnold as quarterback, and I love Sam Darnold. You know, he gave the Patriots a bunch of wins when he was there, but he's still when he was with the Jets. But he's still it's still Sam Darnold. And so if that's the ceiling for a team that is led by Sam Darnold, and we've seen the ceiling for a team that is led by Kirk Cousins, let's see what the ceiling's like with a team that brings in a quarterback who didn't necessarily have the ability to shine in college because he was playing on a primarily run-heavy Harbaugh offense. You see flashes of it in preseason already. I think that the Vikings take it. Who do you think is the dark horse of the division?
Well,
I think we might have the same.
Yeah, man. Based on what we've been saying, man, I'm gonna go with the Lions.
Okay.
Just ultimately because we both believe that the Vikings are gonna take a step forward this year. We believe that the Packers are gonna take a step forward, and we both said that we feel like maybe because of that, the Lions take a step back. The Lions, maybe they're in their mind like, man, we're going to prove to you that we haven't taken a step back. We're still running this division. We're still going to play Dan Campbell football and punch people in the mouths. And you guys on this podcast need to shut up because we're going to prove everybody wrong. So that's my dark horse.
I completely agree. I was having a hard time in my head between them or the Bears, but I think out of the two of those options, the Lions definitely have it ingrained in their culture to be, that team to just win it all. That brings us to the South, or the NFC South. They brought in Easton Stick, Jamal Agnew. They re-signed Jake Matthews.
What's team?
The Atlanta Falcons.
Okay.
They brought in Leonard Floyd, Morgan Fox, Divine Diablo. Mike Hughes re-signed. Kevin King re-signed. Jordan Fuller signed with them. They brought in, I was going to say the long snapper, Liam McCullough, for a 4-year extension. This is an interesting division because if you would have asked me last year, even, if I thought this division was going to be anything but terrible, I would have told you probably. But then the Falcons drafted the way they did.
Yeah.
They brought in Jalen Walker from Georgia. They brought in James Pierce from Tennessee. Xavier Watts from Notre Dame. Billy Bowman, safety from Oklahoma. Xavier Watts was a safety as well. And then Jack Nelson, offensive tackle, Wisconsin. One of the best drafts. And I mean, by all accounts, too, James Pierce has looked phenomenal. Same thing with Jalen Walker. They're going to have a terror on those defensive ends. If you're going to get rid of Grady Jarrett, there's a reason. That's the only reason. And then Raheem Morris, returning, and Michael Penix is going to take the mantle. Drake London looked really good last year. Everybody's saying this is finally the year that Kyle Pitts breaks out. We'll see. But yeah, what are your thoughts?
The Falcons, man, they've been doing the right things and moving in the right direction in the division where, the past few years the Bucs have dominated the division and haven't had any competition.
Yeah.
They showed a little resistance last year, and I think they take a step forward this year and they push for that division lead.
Yeah, this has been such a weird division because there's been so many teams that are not competitive, and I think we'll have one or two teams in this division that are not competitive, but between them and the Bucs.
Yeah.
Falcons are definitely primed up to make that next step. Our next team is the Carolina Panthers. They brought back Andy Dalton. They signed Rico Dowdle. They brought back David Moore. They signed Hunter Renfrow, who by all accounts is shifty as heck in camp. Tommy Tremblay re-signed. Brady Christensen re-signed. Austin Corbett re-signed. Patrick Jones signed with them. Bobby Brown the third signed with them, who is a sneaky, really good defensive tackle. J.C. Horn signed an extension. Mike Jackson signed with them. Trevon Moehrig signed a 3-year deal with them, who I really like. Nick Scott re-signed with them. They're an interesting team because they had the eighth pick, right? And everybody was worried that they were going to mess it up. Everybody thought that Ted McMillan might be the most overrated draft wide receiver, and then he just lights it up in practice and preseason and makes Bryce Young look amazing. And if anything, the two things that Bryce Young needs is a competent O-line and a wide receiver you can just chuck it to. Yeah. That was where he was the strongest. They also sneaky signing Trevor Etienne in the 4th round, or drafted him in the 4th round, and then brought Jimmy Horn in the 6th. This is a weird one. I feel like I like Dave Canales. I liked what he did with the Bucs. There was a weird year last year for the Panthers. They were scary. In my head, I remember them being as like almost spread killers, where it was like you'd have them you have the other team by like 5.5, and they would bring it back and be within the 3. What are your thoughts, Freddie?
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. Like, the Panthers are probably a big part of why I stopped gambling for good. They killed so many. Because I would watch them get whooped so many times, and then the week I put them on my ticket, they were killing my ticket, man. Everything cleared, and I'm like, you know when you think your bet is good, I'm finna go spend this money over here, spend this money over there. Hold on, the Panthers winning by... Oh man, but yeah, I think Bryce Young is gonna take that step forward. I like what they're doing over there, and ultimately, man, the division hasn't been that great, but I think the Panthers take a step forward, and we see, like, after all the talks around Bryce Young the first few years, is he a bust? All these things, he's shown some promise, and I truly believe that he takes a step forward this year and is able to lead this team to some upsets, not only in the division but in the NFC side.
Yeah, I think that this is the perfect team to go like 500 or just above or just below 500. It's an interesting team. The past few years, you could make a bet that this team would be the lowest win totals just because of how badly they were constructed. This is a team that, defensively is terrifying. They let Shaq Thompson leave, which was a little questionable. But other than that, like, they've done a really good job. Their offense has improved. Their offensive line looked pretty good last year. Chuba Hubbard seemed like he was in a really good spot last year. I think that they're poised for some surprises, but they're definitely still on fraud watch.
Yeah.
The Saints, they brought Cam Akers in. They signed Brandon Cooks to a 2-year deal. DPJ to a 1-year deal. Dante Pettis re-signed. Juwan Johnson re-signed for a 3-year deal. They brought in Dylan Raduns. Cam Jordan announced he's coming back for this last season with a revised deal. They signed Chase Young to a 3-year deal. Devon Godchaux was traded to them by the Patriots. Isaac Yadam, who I think is a really, really talented cornerback. He's gotten some interesting play in the last few years, but he's 3 years, $9 million. Julian Blackmon, 1 year, $55, and Justin Reed, 3 year, $31.5. I personally love Justin Reed. He was a terror on the Texans as well as the Chiefs. Yeah, Chiefs. His brother was pretty good too. But the biggest acquisition, as we've said with multiple teams, is Kellen Moore. Yeah. They bring Kellen Moore in. They draft Tyler Show, which was an interesting draft pickup in the 2nd round. But before that, they draft Kelvin Banks in the 1st round. This is a really weird team. I think that they're going to have a hard time competing in most divisions. But I think that this division is definitely one that they could show some stuff. It's looking more and more that it's between Rattler and Show as the starting quarterbacks, and that's what's a little bit concerning. Is like, you draft a quarterback in the 2nd round, you've got Spencer Rattler already in the building. I mean, you got Rattler basically being like, I'm the starting quarterback. It's going to be a little rocky down the stretch. I wouldn't be surprised if, this is a team that It reminds me very much of the Josh Rosen situation, where Rosen went into a bad situation and just was not set up for success. I think Kellen Moore's a decent coach, but he's still,
Yeah.
it's gonna be rough.
Yeah, I didn't understand the Tyler Show pick. That when I looked that down, I was like,
Yeah.
And mind you, this is a person that came into the draft, and you expect the unexpected. But then when I saw that, and of course this is during the time where Shadur is sliding, and I'm like, Shadur definitely better than him. I know for sure. When I saw that pick, I'm like, hey, I don't really get that one. But just this division, you take a look at this division. Everybody has their quarterback.
Yeah.
You don't really. I don't see it. I hope he proves me wrong, but I don't see it with Tyler Show. Spencer Rattler has to prove it this year, but I don't see any guy right now on this roster. So they prove me differently that can take this team to the next level. And I do think they're going to be a team that struggles not just in the league, but in this division as well. They're going to struggle to win games.
No, yeah, I 100% agree with you. Tyler Show was one of those guys where he looked decent. Like, he looked pretty good in college. I mean, he didn't flash off the screen. He didn't, wasn't too crazy at Louisville. But when I heard that he was shooting up draft boards, I was extremely surprised. We're getting the Giants in the next week's predictions, but when Dart was drafted in the first round, I was surprised, but not super surprised because he had the tools and he played at a good school. Louisville wasn't very good, and Show was decent, but he wasn't. I agree with you. I thought that. I mean, especially now seeing a preseason game with Shadur and how good he's been playing and how well he's been doing. I think that he definitely should have been drafted before Show, but I guess that's just the game. Evaluators evaluate in certain ways, I guess, but. No, 100%. They don't have a quarterback, and Show might show us not to have a pun, but he might show us we're wrong. Moving on with your hometown Bucks, my hometown Bucks, I guess still too, even though I am a Patriots fan. They brought Kyle Trask back. Obviously, Teddy Two Gloves is in there now. Chris Godwin re-signed, coming off of a was it ACL tear?
Yeah, I believe so.
Sterling Shepard signed back to there for a 1-year deal. Anthony Nelson re-signs. Ben Bredson re-signs. Hassan Reddick signs on a 1-year $14, which is nuts. Levante David re-signs. Anthony Walker signs there. Bryce Hall, I actually really like that to pick up. Bryce Hall signed there. They signed Riley Dixon, the punter. And then for me, personally, the biggest story for them, outside of Liam Cohen saying, I'm gonna go to the Jaguars, was Emeka Egbuka. I thought he was gonna be a dog coming out of college. He looked so good on that Ohio State team. It was that national championship game. It was him and Jeremiah Smith. Jeremiah Smith was double, triple team sometimes, and Emeka Egbuka was also double and triple team sometimes, and they both made plays on the ball. And when you're comparing a receiver to a transcendental receiver like Jeremiah Smith in a national championship game, that means he's spectacular. Emeka Egbuka is a baller.
Yeah.
He's looked spectacular in practice footage. Especially everybody in this area seems extremely excited. And then they've got Benjamin Morrison, cornerback out of Notre Dame, who a lot of people had higher on their board. Tez Johnson, wide receiver. They brought in Desmond Watson as an undrafted free agent. I think they're poised to win the division, but I think the biggest team, like we said, that's going to have anything to say about that is the Falcons. What's your thoughts?
I think I'm right there with you. The Falcons pushed this team last year, and you ultimately saw some promise from Michael Penix, but you only saw a small sample size.
Yeah,
Baker Mayfield proved it last year. You got a lot of consistent guys on that side: Mike Evans, Godwin, Vita Vea, Levante David. So ultimately, I think this is a division that the Bucs should be expected to come out on top of, especially since it's the weakest division in the NFC.
Yeah. No, 100% the weakest division. I think it's the Bucks to lose. What are the rookies that you're looking forward to, or a rookie?
You see the story all online, man. He's a guy that you just root for. I hope he's able to get things in check. Desmond Watson. I hope that he gets down to whatever weight that they desire him to get down to. He's able to get some time in his preseason, because ultimately, if you're not on the field, man, it's hard to make the team if you're not on the field. He's a story, man. With his size, he's known as the biggest guy in the NFL. But I would love for this to be a comeback story. There's so many ways that this thing could go. He gets his weight down and ends up becoming an all-pro guy. You would love a script to be that's a movie script.
Yep.
Gets his weight down, becomes an all-pro type player with his size and his athleticism. Because when you look at his size and how he's able to move for his size, like, man, he gets some weight down, man. It may be a problem. So I would love to see him, get his weight down and get where the Bucks want him to, not just on the field, but to save himself later on in life.
Yeah, local guy too. So it'd be awesome to see him compete locally. I mean, he's a dude. He's very fun to watch, and it was very fun to watch in college. So it'd be fun to watch him. Now, I think I have two. They're tied for me, and they're both of the wide receivers drafted out of the first round: Emeka Egbuka and Ted McMillan. For the longest time, we had slant boy Michael Thomas versus Mike Evans. I'm just joking. Michael Thomas also. Like, I love Michael Thomas. He was so fun, especially with Drew Brees. But you have two wide receivers drafted in the first round. They have the chance to really bump these quarterbacks up. Baker's already seems to be of that level. Bryce wants to be at that level. I think those guys are two. I'm going to be watching them on Sunday Ticket all the time. Vets that could impress us or surprise us.
Vets that could surprise us. I wouldn't necessarily say surprise, because this guy,
or make a difference, I should say.
Yeah. I think this guy, they just brought him in a short time ago. He came in last week, Teddy Bridgewater. But he's a guy that just comes in, and ultimately he's coming in only to help your locker room. And for a team like the Bucks that brought in a lot of young guys, of course you got a Baker Mayfield, but you got a guy like Teddy Bridgewater that season, and all he wants to do is add value and help. He's not trying to get in the way. He knows that you're the guy, and he has no problem with that. A lot of times you bring in these backups and like, I'm waiting for my opportunity to take his spot. That's not what Teddy Bridgewater is doing. It's like having an extra coach in the locker room. So I'm excited to see how he gels with those younger guys, and ultimately is able to get in the ear of a guy like Baker Mayfield and help him take his game to the next level as well.
No, that's a great one. Teddy Two Gloves, man. Love that guy. He was a great addition to late in the season to the Lions. Basically being like a quarterback's coach, but he getting some time if he needs it. Mine is Justin Reed. I think he, especially with Honey Badger retiring, I think he is one of the most slept on safeties in the league. He really changed those Texans and Chiefs defenses. You have to scheme around him. You have to worry about him. I think that he could be the X factor on that defense, especially with it being kind of aging. With Demario Davis and Cam Jordan both being deep into their careers. You kind of need a guy like Justin Reed, who is deep in his career, but he's still performing at a high level. Something that may surprise us.
Something that may surprise us in this division.
Whether it be like statistically, coach firings.
I think the biggest thing that would surprise me is seeing a competitive team for the Saints this year.
Yeah,
I'm looking on paper. I hate to be that guy. I'm looking on paper. I don't see it, but that's ultimately why the game's got to get played. Yeah. If I look at the end of this year and I see a situation where the Saints are pushing for the top spot in this division, it's like, okay, the sky might be falling, the world may be coming to an end, because I did not see that one coming.
Yeah, I think for me it would be again Ted McMillan performing. I really liked him 2 years ago at Arizona. Last year was a little bit of a downfall. It was because of coaching changes, all that stuff. I think he deserved to be drafted high. And top 10 was a little dicey, but he's proving to be that dude, that they kind of need. Yeah, I think that's my biggest one. Is like I'm interested to see if he can become like the next Mike Evans of this division. Considering Mike Evans, is close to the end.
Yep.
I feel like there's always a one receiver on on every team that has like some, whether it be Steve Smith in that era or, you know, Ted Ginn, if you want to give him the one receiver spot, Devin Funches, like there's all, and specifically on that team, Greg Olson, if you want to count him, there's always been a guy on that team that can take that mantle and become an All-Pro or become a Pro Bowl player. I'm excited to see if he can do it. Who's winning this division?
Yeah, I got the Bucks taking the division this year, man. I just think from top to bottom they got the best roster. Yeah. But it ultimately comes down to, you know, the development of Michael Penix. If he could take that next step and grow, I think they're gonna be in some trouble with the Falcons because they got a solid roster.
100%. Yeah, I think it's the Bucks. I think the Falcons are a close second. Who do you think the dark horse is?
The Panthers all day.
Okay.
Panthers. I think Bryce Young takes the next step. I've gotten a good chance to watch them last year because they were killing all my parlays. And I saw like, all right, man, they ain't really scrubbed. They just got to get some guys on the offensive side of the ball. Yep. And, you know, they got some pieces to kind of help Bryce Young, and I think he's going to take that next step as a leader this year.
Yeah, I think that they've got a chance. I think that's my dark horse as well. I envision them being 9-8, but I could see them be a little bit better. But yeah, that's the NFC North and South. Next week will be the NFC East and West, and then the following week we'll do Florida State. Preview. We'll look at each game, talk about it. But I know before we get out of here, you wanted to talk a little bit about Shedeur.
Oh yeah, man. Coming in, I think right after the draft, I caught a lot of heat because I was, saying that I wasn't shocked by the fact that Shedeur didn't go in the first round. And it wasn't really a thing about Shedeur. It's just, man, in the draft, you expect the unexpected. The only person that would have shocked me in this draft was Travis Hunter sliding. Everybody else is like anything on the table. But although I said that, I do understand that Sanders family, man, they got winners DNA. Yeah, that's just in him. He's learning from the greatest. So I do know that he was going to be composed, but I truly feel like, and I've said this, and people thought that I was crazy. Maybe God allowed him to be in this situation. Oh man, he slid to the 5th round. It's like no, like maybe he's in the best situation he possibly can be in because you see a lot of these first round guys, they get pushed out there on that field before they're ready, and then their confidence gets shattered early on because they may not have the best pieces around them. Now Shedeur Sanders is a 5th round draft pick. Yep. Doesn't have all the expectations. Whether you wanted him to be a 1st round draft pick, you thought he got screwed over or not, doesn't have all the expectations. Now he can develop. Every person in this draft needs to develop and grow in something. A lot of times when you go early, you don't have the time to do that. You just got to go out there and, get thrown in the fire. Now he gets to develop. And he's going to get an opportunity with his team later on mid-season. I do think he'll get an opportunity to play. I think you don't have a QB on this team right now that is going to lead your team to the playoffs. Joe Flacco's not going to do it at this point in his career. Kenny Pickett is not going to be able to do it. They're going to have to give one of the young guys a chance. And it's a blessing in disguise because he came into it as QB4. Last week, he wouldn't have been playing that much in the preseason game. Guys just so happened to get hurt. So now he gets to play. But the fact that he's QB4, that guarantees him the opportunity to play more in the preseason as well. So now he gets to continue to show, hey, man, that wasn't a fluke. I'm really like that. Yeah. But now also because he balled in his opportunity, you got to get that man some reps with the ballers.
No, 100%.
The starters, your first team guys, see how he looks in there with them. And so what people thought was a bad thing in the beginning, I think it's going to work out in his favor. Like I said before, when everybody was mad at me for not, like if you're not meat riding everything somebody does, you're a hater. I support what they do. I think they're winners, man. Whether people like it or not, the Sanders family, they're winners. When people are mad at me for saying what I said, I mean, I truly believe as things play out, you're going to see that everything will work out in his favor. So I'm excited to see it.
Yeah, he's in an interesting situation. I mean, him being in the 5th round, making him cheaper. I mean, even in recent years, but like within the last 10 years, Dak Prescott is another example of a dude who was drafted in the 3rd round, I believe. Wasn't expected to be the starter, and then Tony Romo kind of got hurt, and then he took that. I think, Shedeur's another guy who was drafted late, Tom Brady. Defensive, not minded necessarily, but defensive-oriented team. I mean, their defense is stacked in the Browns. The Patriots were stacked. The only difference is, Browns don't have a Drew Bledsoe. Yeah, it's a lot of good opportunity, and I mean, like you said, the Sanders have a championship DNA. Speaking of which, you see what Shiloh said about his dad not wanting his jersey?
No, what is it?
So Shiloh was like, he played in his first preseason game. He made his NFL debut, which is funny that people are saying that's the NFL debut now is preseason game. I always thought it was the first game of the regular season.
Yeah.
But so he was talking to reporters, and they're like, "Oh yeah, what are you going to do with the jersey?" And he was like, "Oh, I was going to give it to my dad. I called him, and he said he didn't want it."
What? He say what?
he's like, well, you think he's a Hall of Famer, so it's like you got to do something cool. He's like, I got to get like at least 3 picks for him to want a jersey or something.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. And speaking of that, man, I think Shiloh's a guy that's gonna make the Bucs roster.
Yeah.
Just, of course, he's buried on the depth chart at safety, but when you're looking at this roster, man, for a guy like Shiloh Sanders, it's all about special teams. And I saw a report come out that said he wants to be a guy that makes it on the Pro Bowl or be an All-Pro guys on special teams. And with his personality and his work ethic, that's the stuff that these special teams coaches love. And when you get in with these special teams coaches, sometimes they're more powerful than the offensive or defensive guys because you get in with them and now they're giving you more opportunities on special teams, but then they're pushing you in meeting rooms to the offensive or defensive coaches. So I think with his personality, just being likable and being the guy that's going to work hard, and of course being the Sanders with that championship DNA, I think he's a special teams coach is going to fall in love with him and give him an opportunity to make this team.
I mean, he had some good plays too. Not to talk too much about preseason, but he had a couple of really fun plays. He made a really big tackle, sack. But yeah, no, I mean, also talking about preseason, the Rams, our guys Willie and Xavier showing out.
Man, Willie out there pancaking people. Xavier told us about it on the pod a few weeks ago, but seeing Willie had the dopest move. Willie Lampkin had one of the dopest moves. I seen him chip a blocker.
Yep.
He came to chip a blocker, hit a spin move, and then let up on another blocker. That was the coldest move, and it did he just did it.
Yep.
Like, whoa. Maybe the league is going to start taking a look at these undersized guys that can move because he looks so fluid, and then he's always going to win the leverage battle. So, I mean, he looks good. I'm excited about Willie.
It's like if you had like Aaron Donald athleticism at a center position.
That's what somebody said. I mean, he's going to end up being the Aaron Donald of the offensive side.
It was fun watching him. He had a really high PFF rating. Not that matters much, but like the fact that he's getting recognition for that too. And then Xavier, having like 50 yards and looking great, dapping up McVay. I was watching the replay of it last night just because NFL Network's doing all the replays, and I see him make a big play. He goes and he daps up, and McVay's like excited, and he's like, "Let's go!" And then on the other side, Ryan Fitzgerald made his NFL debut, hit a field goal for the Panthers. He's got a good chance,
Yeah, Ryan Fitzgerald, that's my guy, man. Last year, when Florida State was struggling, he was probably the only bright spot for the team. Watching Ryan kick, we're getting blasted, but it's like, at least I get to see Ryan drill a 60-yarder today.
Yep.
My day's better now.
Yep.
And, I'm excited for Ryan in this journey, man. A guy that's overcome so much adversity, so many people ready to give up on him, but he continued to, push through, and, ultimately now he's in a position where he's going to, have a chance to make this team and, be an important piece for this Panther squad.
No, it's going to be fun seeing. I just love the fact that we've had, these 3 guys on there, and I had no reason to root for the Panthers. I had no reason to root for the Rams. Now I've got a reason to watch those teams. Even if it's, just to catch a glimpse of some of these guys, it's fun. I think that leads us to football guys. You want to go first?
Dang, did I forget my football guy? You go first.
I'll go first. Yeah. You figure out your football guy. I was having a conversation with my buddy. We were playing Madden, and we were talking about wide receivers. He's a huge Giants fan, so he was talking about Malik Neighbors and how he hopes that Malik Neighbors will lead them to a championship. And I had the thought, when was the last time that like one of the top 5 receivers in the league won a championship? You see all these teams with these like pieced together receivers, and like in my head I was like Tyreek, like when Tyreek won with the Chiefs, but he wasn't necessarily a top receiver. He was just a really good receiver. Hines Ward, when he won, he was probably a top receiver, but he wasn't like a top 3, top 5 receiver. And then it led me down this rabbit hole of looking at each receiver's stats for each winning Super Bowl team. And this is where my football guy comes from. It's a homer pick, but I was too young to remember how good this guy was. Deion Branch.
Yeah, Deion Branch, man.
Deion Branch. He was a dog,
Yeah,
dude.
he was nice.
I mean, he was with the Patriots for the first 4 years of his career, and the last 3 years he was with the the Seahawks. In between that, he never had an 1,000-yard receiving season. But the 2 Super Bowls he won with us, 10 receptions, 143 yards, and a touchdown, and 11 receptions for 133 yards in the grandest stage of them all. That just proves, it's like we've talked behind the scenes too, and this is a dream interview for me, but we've talked about Malcolm Mitchell and how he was one of my favorite receivers growing up, specifically because of what he did in that run to the Falcons Super Bowl, catching everything in the last few minutes. This is the perfect example. Like Deion Branch, he makes 2 Super Bowls, he wins 2 Super Bowls, he wins an MVP in a Super Bowl, and he's just that crutch that a young Tom Brady could lean on. Just a dog. Love that guy. If he isn't in the Patriots Hall of Fame, he should be, because he's like that. Also a wide receivers coach at Louisville. I didn't know that, but yeah. What about you?
I got Jordan Reed, man. Jordan Reed, tight end for the Washington.
That's a good one.
Yeah, he was solid for the Washington, now the Commanders, but Jordan Reed started off as a quarterback in college at Florida, got converted to tight end, and he's a guy that always delivered. Jordan Reed was a problem, man. He balled out and this is a guy that's a Florida State guy, but I would watch Jordan Reed like, man, bro, he tough. Every single week he's delivering highlight plays, putting up crazy numbers, and the only thing that would derail him or hurt him was the fact that he always stayed injured.
Yep.
He stayed different injuries, and then once the concussions came into play, it kind of killed his career. But when you look back at the tape, if he was a guy that could have stayed healthy, man, he was going to put together a legendary type of career. He was a problem, and they didn't really have solid QBs in Washington at the time, but he always seemed to deliver.
Yeah, he was a terror, man. Also, we were talking about this last time, or when we were talking about AR. That's crazy thinking that Jordan Reed was a quarterback that turned wide or turned tight end. They also had Trey Burton.
Yeah,
what's going on there? Is that something? Was that is it Urban Meyer then? Is that an Urban Meyer special?
Yeah, maybe so. I just think the great coaches do a good job of.
He tried to do it with Tebow.
Yeah, we just had we had Jimbo on, and a lot of guys on that championship team started off either on offense and moved to defense, and then on defense and moved to offense, and then they went on to have solid NFL careers. I think the great coaches, they're just able to see it. Yeah,
they're able to see. That's crazy. I didn't know that he was a quarterback. That makes me have so much more respect to. I mean, I love Jordan Reed. He's one of those.
So also it brings up an argument. Quarterbacks, everybody talks about the best athletes on the field, but I believe the best athlete. Of course, your tackles are up there, but quarterbacks are your most athletic guys on the field.
There's a track record. That's 100%. Yeah, that's
the ball skills. That's why it's so easy for guys like Terrell Pryor to go out at receiver, and then he's catching these passes, and Hines Ward, all of these different guys, Julian Edelman. The quarterbacks, I feel like, are the best athletes on the field. Even though they may not be your fastest guys, they can.
Yeah. Was Hines Ward a quarterback?
Yeah, Hines Ward was a quarterback.
I had no idea.
Yeah, and then he switched to receiver.
That makes so much sense.
Man, I think people underestimate what quarterbacks go through on a snap basis, a snap-to-snap basis, just from being able to catch those snaps over the head. You know how much hand-eye coordination it requires sometimes to not know where the ball is going to snap, and then some of these centers, they're getting their face beat in by a defensive tackle, and now they're snapping the ball with a little bit of velocity just to help themselves out. And you got to catch this thing, recover, and get the play back on point so that you can be able to help your team be successful on the down. Quarterbacks, man, they like that.
That's crazy. I didn't know. I didn't realize Hines. Now I'm just thinking about how much it makes sense. In my head, his route running and his anticipation always reminded me. Well, Edelman always reminded me of Hines Ward, like a smaller version of him. That makes so much sense. But that's the football guys of the week. Thank you guys for watching this episode. Next week's Mike Norvell. It's the big one. It was fun talking to him. It begins the section of interviews that we did at the Florida State practice facility, or facility, I guess. It was cool seeing that. I'd never been there. Freddie obviously has been there. But no, thank you. Thank you so much for listening, watching. And thank you to our sponsors, Frantically, Concord Coffee, and Indian Atlantic Films. We'll see you guys next week.